What's up, guys? Thank you all for checking out this week's edition of our Falcon and Winter Soldier episode recap. This week we're talking about episode 3 of the series. This is the Power Broker episode. And guys, we've heard about the Power Broker a little bit in the previous episode. This week the Power Broker's name was dropped several times, though we still don't have an identity. So that was kind of one of the underlying themes of this episode. Of course, this is our first venture into Madripoor. We kind of got to see it in this full glory today. This is, of course, the first time we have an X-Men Fox location on a Marvel Studios project, so we'll be excited to see what you guys thought about it. And the return of a couple of friendly faces, a couple of villain faces, and a surprise at the very end. So a lot of stuff to get to on today's show. I'll go to Sham first. Sham, what was your initial thoughts on episode 3, Power Broker?
I thought this was another very good episode. This, to me, was definitely, for me, a Zemo-centric episode. So this is almost like the Zemo introduction episode for me. And Sharon Carter episode as well. I thought it was decent. I thought it was pretty good. Sharon Carter put in a lot of work in terms of bringing action to the show. But yeah, it was good. I thought it was a decent episode. I'm now at this point, we're kind of past the halfway point now. So at this point, it's about seeing, okay, so how's this going to heat up, right? I mean, what's going to happen? Who's the power broker? What's the Flag Smashers going to do? What's this, fake Cap going to do? So yeah, things are heating up.
Wow, fake Cap.
I mean, he's not Cap. He's fake Cap.
Where's the lies? I mean, I think many people refer to Walker as a fake Cap, though I guess in this world he's the new Captain America. Kendall, again, a lot of stuff happened here. What was your initial thoughts on episode 3?
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Like you mentioned, it's funny. Shamari mentioned Sharon Carter. Very Black Widow-esque in this episode, the way she was able to take out some of those Madripoor people, but. Yeah, I mean, this was a very interesting episode because I feel like we're now 3 episodes in. We have a pretty decent feel for the structure and formatting of the show, and I feel like it goes quickly. It's a very fast-paced show.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And you kind of don't, even though the runtime is vastly longer than WandaVision, you don't really feel it because it's going so fast-paced, whereas WandaVision was so slowed down, at least initially. In the way it was presented, so it's interesting how that kind of correlates. But yeah, I mean, this was again a very fast-paced episode. A lot happened, and you learn a lot about, like EJ said, a character like the Power Broker, who last week really couldn't have any guess or really any idea of who that could be. Well, now we have little stuff's being dropped. Now we can kind of discuss that. Who could potentially be the Power Broker. And obviously, like EJ mentioned, you had that surprise at the end.
Yeah, so we'll get to that surprise at the end a little bit later. But I do want to begin with basically where this episode starts off. So you have basically, after the previous conversation from the last episode ended with Sam agreeing, okay, we got to go see Zemo. That's where we start. We come in and Bucky and Sam are in Germany, ready to speak to Helmut Zemo. And what, I think Shamari said this was kind of an introduction to Zemo. I mean, in some ways, I feel like, I don't want to say it was a reboot of Zemo, only because, a lot of his character and his principles were still present, and hence, and it did tie together why he was working with them. His, just like, disdain for superpowered people and what he feels is the dangers that they present to be, as he said, quote unquote, a new Avengers team. Like that was going to help them in terms of having the help them with him having the motivation to want to make sure that any super soldiers are put down. So it was a familiar Zemo in that regard, but then there was a lot of new things we learned. In terms of him being Baron Zemo, I mean, he really truly lived up to that name in this episode. We learn about the fact that he's a baron, and that he's rich, and that he's almost like in some ways he's almost like a Sokovian Bruce Wayne. You know, he had them just jet setting all around the world, and he had a private jet, and he had his homeboy, the pilot, was setting them up with everything, and then also, you know, what we didn't see in Civil War, and it made sense in Civil War because you're not going to see him, you know, go toe to toe with Captain America, but we actually saw later in this episode him scrap. You know, we saw him being able to, you know, we saw him with the rocket launcher. We saw him, fighting guys, especially when he put on that mask in that scene where they were in the, like that container hub, that tanker that they were on.
Yep.
Like, you saw, like, okay, this is not just a guy who's just a, master manipulator and, strategist, which is what he was presented as in Civil War. They expanded his character to fall even closer in line to what we're accustomed to seeing from Baron Zemo, and now we can really call him Baron Zemo. He's not just Helmut Zemo, his name. They were calling him Baron Zemo in this episode, so that was kind of like a reintroduction in some ways, and a little bit of a reboot to who we were introduced to when we saw him in Civil War.
Yeah, I feel like Kevin Feige, it's similar to how Wanda Maximoff became the Scarlet Witch in WandaVision. Spoiler alert. I'm assuming you've watched WandaVision if watching this. But, it's that evolution where, like EJ mentioned, we had the Helmut Zemo character, but now we're getting a guy who's closer to the guy that we've seen in the comics. And that's the guy that a lot of people probably expected we'd get in Civil War. We didn't get that guy, but it was a version of him that was still really good. But now we're getting someone who's going to be a little bit more closer to the comic version of Baron Zemo. And I thought it was cool. I think the most interesting thing, EJ mentioned a lot of good things. I think one of the things that I thought was interesting as well was how, his dynamic wasn't he wasn't pure evil. Like, clearly, he has his own agenda. But he was able to, still work with them because I don't think, like he even said, it was nothing personal against any of you guys. Like, he just has his own personal vendetta that he was trying to get across, his own personal agenda that he was trying to get across. And, he didn't really hold any of them, responsible individually. So, it was interesting how that played off and how, his demeanor was a lot more not, laid back, but, he was just willing to kind of go with the flow in this circumstance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he seems to have his own agenda here too.
Yeah,
it seems very obvious. He has his own agenda. He knows what what his specific plans are, and he's not filling them in on it. But I mean, and I think Sam and Bucky know that too. But they're saying, look, we need him. Sam particularly knows that. But he's like, look, we need him. He can help us. He has leads that we can follow, which he did have leads that they could follow. So yeah, at this point, it's a matter of seeing, what he's going to do to double cross them in one of these episodes, right? We're all just waiting for it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us, I thought during that scene, I thought he double crossed them multiple times during that scene. Because, that scene where they fight, all the bounty hunters on the tanker, there are times where when he shoots the guy, they weren't ready to have the man be killed. They probably went to question the Hydra, the former Hydra scientist that then was supposed to work for the U.S. government during the blip stage, and then was kind of dropped once once people started coming back. He kills that guy, and then he's kind of in the wind, as all hell is breaking loose when they get hit with that rocket launcher. And you think, okay, that's him getting away, but actually, you realize it's him, getting good position to then take out all those guys by shooting the oil tank. It's one of those things, almost like a classic, wrestling gimmick almost, or a wrestling feud, where the heel is gonna turn at some point. You're just waiting for it. And I thought this episode actually did a kind of good job of giving us kind of false moments where you think, okay, he's turned on them now, but he didn't, And you feel like, Bucky and Sam's desperation to stop the Flag Smashers and secure whatever super soldier serum that's left, that we now know that there isn't any left. That they're desperate.
I guess that there's no, they have it.
Well, yeah, there's no additional ones, right? The Flag Smashers have the only ones left. And we know it can't be recreated now because the scientist is dead. So, which is what he was trying to do in that that I don't know what you would call he was in. Whatever that thing he was in, that little makeshift lab he was in on that boat. So now it really becomes like a race of just like who can get to the Flag Smashers first. But that just like will he or won't he with Zemo, I thought was compelling during the whole episode, and I thought they just gave him good moments. Like you see him, playing, talking to the people inside the inside the Madripoor Club. And you see him, have to, get Winter Soldier or Bucky to tap into that Winter Soldier character. And there's just all these different moments where you're just expecting that maybe this is him trying to do something to escape or do something to kind of do his own thing. And as of now, it seems like things are on the up and up, but that turn's going to come soon and it's going to be good.
It was he had a very interesting line at the end where he says, I can't wait to go face to face with this Carly Morgenthau person. We don't really know why he said that or why that was so intriguing. Mm-hmm. He doesn't like super soldiers, but like why specifically her? That I thought that was an interesting line. Maybe he's just fascinated by what she's been able to do, what she's been able to accomplish. I don't know. Because it's kind of similar to what he was able to do, single-handedly. But yeah, no, I think Zemo's character definitely had a lot of interesting moments. I mean, when they're interrogating the scientists, when he picks up the gun, I told Shamari, I was like, oh, he's gonna blow his head off, man.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Yep.
And you can see where because of Zemo, like once the guy was talking about, I'm the only guy in the world.
Yeah, once he started saying that stuff. Yeah.
Zemo, the wheels started turning in his head. Like, I got to take this guy out there. Now, the world would be much better. I'm surprised that they didn't,
anticipate that.
Yeah, anticipate that. Sam and Bucky. So, but yeah, no, that was an interesting scene. The scene in the club was really interesting.
Zemo could probably work on his dance moves a little bit. He was trying to get down. He was trying to get down at one of the parties, and it wasn't looking all that fly. So he could probably.
I hope Daniel Bruhl is ready to be a meme forever.
Daniel Bruhl should be. He should try to parlay this into Dancing with the Stars. Because like that scene is already going viral, and I'm sure people will be like, well, now we got to get him on Dancing with the Stars.
I think Emily Van Camp, Sharon Carter should try and parlay her fighting skills into a UFC contract. She's putting on those bounty hunters.
Yeah, Sharon put in some work, no question. What do you guys think of her introduction? It comes as it came as they were in this very tense moment with Selby, who was this kind of like liaison to the power broker, and Sam's phone goes off as he's trying to, be this kind of like, not himself. He's portraying some other different person who looks just like him, which is funny. He's in this like, crazy suit, and he takes the phone. And of course, his sister calls, and she refers to him as Sam, and that's when they're made. We know Selby gets killed. We don't know by who, but eventually they get rescued kind of by Sharon. What did you kind of make of kind of where she stands right now? Because we learned that she's been in the wind, and there's a lot of resentment from Sharon. Like in some ways, I felt like, Sam's dialogue at one point was almost like the audience dialogue, because he said something like, "Oh, now you're annoying too," or like, "Oh, you're annoying now also." Like,
that was Bucky. Yeah.
Oh, it was Bucky. Okay, one of them said that where they kind of were like, yeah, like because this is someone that's been great, in terms of being like just a heroic character and someone who's helped out kind of always in like the time of need. And here, she's really jaded. She's obviously sacrificed a lot for the country and for mankind, and yet, she's still a fugitive. I think there's a lot to say there about that, because they mentioned, Bucky, like as Sam said, Bucky's killed not millions of people, but a lot of people, and he's good. Sam is good, but somehow, Sharon is still forced to be living now. What you realize is just like almost like the Wild Wild West living in Madripoor. What do you kind of make of her situation, Sham?
Yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty dark. She's clearly in a pretty dark place. which makes sense, I guess, considering everything that happened and the fact that she's still not welcome in the United States at all. She has to be in this place that is clearly not a very good place to be. But, you know, I'm expecting her to eventually come around. You know, I'm thinking the circumstances of whatever Zemo is going to be doing is going to lead her to continue to assist them, possibly even save them at the end. So that's really what I'm anticipating. But yeah, she put in a lot of work in this episode. She definitely showed that, you know, she's a very valuable asset.
Yeah.
To this Avengers, whatever this team is now, that they have going on. You know, I think they're definitely going to need her. So, but I thought her story was very interesting. So I hope we continue to see more of her, not just in this show, but hopefully in other properties as well.
And I'll be honest, Kendall. I was like kind of when I heard Sharon was on such down times. I'm like, yo, Nick Fury couldn't hook her up with a job up in space, like.
Yeah, he's busy, you know, up there.
Yeah, and Sharon's been mad loyal to him and has been, you know, a trusted ally, and yet, you know, he's just got her just chilling in the wind. Like he couldn't get her, a first class, a one round trip to wherever he's chilling out in space.
So, first of all, I mean that scene in Madripoor where they're at the bar and Falcon has to do his
drink that snake, whatever snake.
Yeah, that's
egg
drink.
Or whatever the heck that was.
You know, what was his nickname? The Smiling Tiger or something like that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
The Smiling Tiger. I mean, that was, first of all, I mean, just hilarious. That was a hilarious scene.
Oh, yeah. That was
up there with the Black Falcon line from last week.
Yep.
But yeah, no, this was the Sharon Carter character, you know, it made sense given, you know, she wasn't blipped and, you know, or at least it seems like she wasn't blipped and, you know, obviously given where things ended off in Civil War, you know, all these other characters were able to tie a nice little neat bow, you know, but except her character. I don't know. I mean, I know Shamari thinks that, you know, things are going to go positively for Sharon Carter. I got some vibes that, you know, I mean, I'm not saying she's the power broker, you know, but is she working with the power broker? Is she the power broker? Seems a little dark. Is she working with the Flag Smashers? You know, I mean, these are theories that you have to throw out there. And then EJ mentions the Nick Fury thing. I think the last theory that, you know, I don't think any of us would be super enthused about, is she a Skrull? You know, is that even Sharon Carter? You know, like, these are all questions that we have to ask. Right now, I think I'm leaning towards she's working with the Flag Smashers.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards. Because remember, Carly found out that the guy died. We don't know how she knew that. Like, she was like, oh, yeah, whatchamacallit's dead, the doctor or the scientist. I'm like, all right. I guess you got ears on the ground. They're able to pick that up. I mean, you know, Sharon Carter, obviously, when she sees the doctor dead, she's like, what did you do? You know, like, why are you so upset? You know, this has really nothing to do with you. And then she goes to the car with the person waiting and is like, man, we've got a couple of problems on our hands. It sounds like power broker business or sounds like Flag Smasher business to me. That's my theory.
I mean, it's so and kind of and that's an interesting thing. I didn't really think much about like her involvement as either power broker business or Flag Smasher business. I mean, the power broker thing seems a little weird because like why would like if she was a power broker, she wouldn't be communicating with, you know, Carly, like, because the power brokers, you know, wants to kill them, as they said, and it doesn't seem.
Well, yeah. That would mean that she wasn't the one that told her that. Yet.
Right, and it doesn't seem like, from what I gather, it doesn't seem that like she doesn't seem to be any rush to do anything but stay low. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there was an issue with the Flag Smashers really causing havoc, you would think that there would be more of a sense of urgency. Now, of course, it could just be her playing coy, but I mean, she really didn't seem all interested in helping them that much. She was like, you gotta ruin my life. What the hell are y'all doing here? So I guess to me, if she was working for the power broker, you know, part of me would think, well, maybe she would have a little bit more urgency to get them, you know, to the power broker, like more kind of on spot. Like, you know, the fact that she didn't have that was
if she's
interesting.
working for the power broker, maybe that's why she's helping them, because she wants to get to the Flag Smashers.
That's
Just
true
like
too.
they want to get to the Flag Smashers.
But then she doesn't go with them. She's like, all right. She's like, all right, guys, peace out. Like,
Well, yeah.
Now, if she is the power broker, was she in the room when they were talking to the doctor and he was talking about the power broker?
No.
She wasn't.
She was outside fighting.
she was fighting all those years. She was
Oh
fighting
yeah,
all those guys.
yeah, she was fighting those guys. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, was that real? Was that staged? You know, if she was the power broker, then why would she be fighting those guys? You know, I mean, that all seems a little mustache twirly a little bit. But again, there's just a lot of weird stuff. You know.
I mean, to me, I almost lean more towards the scroll thing being something that I would think
probably
that
be
made a
more
little
like
more sense. Like to me, like, you know, the ability that maybe this is your introduction to the evil scroll. So you have someone who is, you know, you think is good, and yeah, they're a scroll, but you know, you realize that there was a lot of lying and deceit going on. This wasn't anything involving Nick Fury. And I mean, in a sense, this also could be her being a scroll. Like, you know, I said that, you know, why did Nick Fury leave out to dry? Maybe he didn't. Maybe he said, I need someone to replace you. Go to Madripoor and just keep the peace, I guess. You know,
Right.
I'm not sure. It could go either way with that. So staying on Madripoor, I mean, this is something that we've been looking forward to really ever since we had those like leaked like set photos from like, you know, 50, 60 yards away showing the Madripoor flag, and we knew that this was going to be our introduction to this place. We got a lot of details about what the deal is with the place and how it stacks in the MCU as of right now. There weren't, in my eyes, or maybe you guys and maybe people online have seen, there weren't any obvious connections or allusions to the X-Men or Wolverine or anything like that. But what did you guys make of our like true introduction to Madripoor?
Well, I mean, I thought Madripoor was pretty cool. Seemed like a very lawless, you know, very dangerous place in what country did she say it was? Shay was in
South Asia.
Yeah, someone said Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, definitely not a place you would want to be. I'm not super familiar with Madripoor in the comics, but I agree. I didn't see any real illusion, though I'm sure the people who are searching frame by frame could find something relating to mutants or X-Men or something like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't see anything. There was nothing that stood out to me, you know, that would have alluded to mutants or the X-Men.
You didn't see Magneto's helmet in the back?
I didn't see the Weapon X chamber.
I could have swore I saw Cyclops' visor sitting on a chair somewhere.
Yeah, so I mean, overall, I thought Madripoor was pretty cool. Honestly, it definitely seems like a place we'll see again somewhere down the line.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the little bit of research that I've done, it seemed that some of the connections that they tried to throw in there were that the bar that they were at, or the club that they were at, called the Princess Bar, is where it was a bar that was co-owned by Wolverine in the comics in Madripoor, which is kind of interesting. I think that's probably one of the bigger Madripoor tie-ins that they threw in there. Overall, like, it seems like what it was in the show is what it is in the comics. You know, like, it's a very, you know, eclectic kind of place, and, you know, again, like you mentioned, the Wild Wild West. Our mom mentioned while we were watching that it's very Star Warsy. You know, the aesthetic.
Yeah, I definitely got Star Wars effect. Yeah, Star Wars vibes for sure.
Yeah, that cantina kind of feel in Madripoor. But yeah, I mean, I thought visually, I thought it was awesome. You know,
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know where they shot it, what country they were in, but wherever it was a very nice place. You know, they tried to make it not seem nice, but you could tell it was. But
no, I thought it was great. I thought it was reminiscent to me of some of the shots that we got from Black Panther when he was in Korea.
Right.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, you know, the showrunner and the director today. I think that they probably were looking into that when they did this.
And Nate Moore, one of the producers of the show, was obviously heavily involved in Black Panther. So.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine, you know, some of that is not a coincidence. To me, I want to go back to the power broker because, you know, I mentioned the Sharon Carter theory, but do we have any other? I wouldn't say that's the leading candidate. I mean, she's one of the characters that is on the show that could potentially be the power broker. But is there anybody else? Do we think that the power broker is somebody? Do we think it's somebody that we've seen in the MCU before, or in the show?
I think it is. I think that would be a leap to introduce somebody we've not seen before
and explain all of it.
Yeah. Though I think I would say this. I think the only person I could see being the power broker that is not someone from that we've been introduced to is probably someone like Doctor Doom.
Right.
I don't know if I don't know if his name's been thrown out much, but I think he would make sense for like this kind of operation. Like, now you argue, hey, like he let some, 20-year-old girl get the drop on him on some, super serum. I mean, I don't know. He's got a lot of minions that are kind of doing his work clearly, and so maybe, and also this maybe isn't prime Doom, but to me, like maybe someone like him, especially since so much of the work that we're seeing done, besides the stuff in Magicor, has been in like Eastern Europe, So if you're like, okay, who's a European figure who could be doing that besides someone like Zemo, obviously, Doom strikes like someone who could be possible, but that's like I think a very low possibility, but I think it's someone that I thought about.
Yeah, Zemo's line in like the last scene where he's talking about Sokovia and he says that countries or people have kind of been building it back up into something else, or something along those lines, definitely gave a lot of people Latveria vibes. I think that's been the prevailing theory that
he said pretty much
is that Sokovia could eventually become some level of Latveria, or that Latveria could have come up at some point during the blip, and that could be Doctor Doom's origin in the MCU. And they did throw that line in there. I mean, again, if you're talking about people that we've seen in the MCU, first of all, people on this show, we don't think it's Isaiah Bradley, right? Seems they wouldn't go that. It wouldn't be that.
No, I don't think so.
I mentioned Sharon Carter. We don't think it's Zemo because he's referenced that he knows of the power broker, but he's never seen him. There's no reason for them to make that up. We don't think it's John Walker, right? Because that would be, I can't imagine.
He just like the way they're building up the power broker. Like, he just seems too goofy.
Yeah.
To be able to run like that kind of operation.
Yeah,
and also be Captain America. Like it feels like he's hanging on the. We see the tense scene where he goes into that that stakeout place that they've been gone for a long time, so they're well behind the curve of this investigation. So it seems like the idea that he could he couldn't even be higher up on that, and then he somehow cutting deals in Madripoor and all over the world, like that doesn't seem that seems way above his abilities right now.
So if we're going off people that are connected to Captain America that haven't been in the show, that are villains, I don't know what the Red Skull is doing. I don't know what happened to him post Endgame. Is he back on Earth somehow?
And Red Skull was name dropped today too. By the way.
Red Skull was name dropping. Think about it. The episode 2, they name dropped Sharon Carter and she appeared in 3. In episode 3, they name dropped King T'Chaka and then Wakanda show up. Now they name dropped the Red Skull.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I mean, I feel like Red Skull is like definitively dead. I mean, we saw his spirit or whatever in like the Soul Stone.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like blipped out of existence. He was killed.
Yeah.
Like, he was dead for a long time.
There's so many Marvel like animated properties that like show the Red Skull like as like an Avengers villain and like a modern day villain.
Mm-hmm.
That it's always been so jarring because I'm like, they haven't even touched that in the MCU.
Yep.
And the thing about
one of their like 3 biggest villains, it seems like in their other media.
And the thing about the Red Skull also though is, while Shamari's right, I mean, he is dead as far as I'm concerned, or at least as far as we're supposed to be concerned. I mean, we've never seen anyone. Well, we've seen people, obviously use the Infinity Stones together, and Thanos used it once, and then we saw Tony Stark and Bruce Banner use it once. I mean, we don't know what happens if someone uses those stones and what that does to him. I mean, I guess maybe we know what happens after Thanos because he didn't leave. But I mean, could they write something out where somehow like the fact that they used the stones therefore allowed him to be somehow brought back to life? Like, you gotta find some. You gotta write some cockamamie stuff to kind of make it happen, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world that somehow the use of the stones brought him back to life and brought him to the present day of Earth.
The other Captain America character that could still be around is Arnim Zola. He wasn't knocked completely off the picture.
No, that's true.
When you have the tagline and when they go into Madripoor and it says the power broker is watching you, Arnim Zola could be everywhere.
Nah, I don't want to see him.
But he's the one that's
I'm the one. He definitely is like the candidate that I at least want to see. I agree with Sham, but I think he's definitely a possibility.
I didn't really like seeing him in whatchamacallit, Winter Soldier.
Really?
I was kind of like, oh, okay, is this guy?
I like Zola in Winter Soldier.
It was a cool scene, but it wasn't like
Right.
I wasn't like,
I was
like, wow. I was kind of like, all right. I mean, it was cool. It was cool. I definitely wouldn't want to see him in this, honestly. I don't think it's anybody. I mean, to me, that's my leading.
So you think it's gonna be?
I think it's gonna be a new character. Yeah, that's my.
But
leading.
You don't think it's gonna be someone that's like earth shattering?
No.
An aerospace engineer.
No, I think it's Reed Richards. Doctor Doom. Yeah, I don't think so. That's not to say we won't get anything like that in the show, but I don't think the Power Broker is that person. That doesn't even mean the Power Broker isn't going to be someone cool or someone that could be like a big bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they could be a super soldier themselves. Yeah. But I don't think it's someone we know.
It's just there's such a short list of people I feel like it could be. Just from like if it is
just from a storytelling,
from a practical standpoint, yeah.
Yeah. Like there isn't like we've only had a small amount of Captain America movies and Marvel movies that those types of characters that we've had only a certain amount of villains, or even allies that could be even roaming around in Madripoor, doing that kind of stuff. So to me, I'm still kind of hesitant to make a guess, but right now I would lean towards Arnim Zola. He's the most obvious like Captain America villain that's still out there that hasn't been accounted for in the modern time.
Yeah.
Post blip time, but I agree with you guys. That's not something that I'm super excited about.
Staying on the villain track, I feel like if there's right now, I think a critique I would have of this show is I feel like the Power Broker, it's not the Power Broker, the Flag Smashers still I don't think have quite found their footing, especially Carly as being the leader of the Flag Smashers. It's like her character, like they've written her character, as you guys have said, it's very similar to her character in Solo. It's a very interesting kind of role where she doesn't talk a lot, but yet she has a lot of influence. But I almost feel like I kind of said in episode 1 in our first recap, I feel like we're missing that scene where we see her rallying the troops in any way to make you understand why this cause that they have, why they're listening to this person. Like, to me, that aspect of it is still missing. I feel like obviously we saw a ratcheting up of her extremism because she's willing to blow up all those people. Did we what was the beef with that? Why did they kill all those people?
Well, they were holding on to I guess all these resources.
Some kind of resources, I guess, that people need.
Yeah, and they weren't really doing anything with them. So she came in and stole them. And tied them up.
Yeah, but it seemed like they were I guess what confused me, and I got the fact that resources weren't being used, but it seemed like there were civilians in there who there was obviously some military guy in there who was not doing his job. She was the guy who was getting most of her ire. But then there were other people who were just in there just chilling. It seemed who were also tied up. I didn't know if they were working for that guy, if they were institution that was messing up. And that was a little
Yeah.
confusing to me.
Yeah, it was unclear.
And then I also felt like, again, a ratcheting up at the extremism when we don't see. I guess maybe the arguments that we saw her, she lost her, looked like some kind of mentor or someone who was very important to her, to tuberculosis. Like, I don't know if that like had anything to do with like maybe her being like on one in this episode, but it's just a character that is so understated. I think that actually is somewhat hurting her a little bit. I think it's hurting the Flash Smashers as a whole. It's also weird because the Flash Smashers are so far ahead of the rest of the group. Like we did in a fair, we did see them fight them in the last episode, but like this episode, you see they're so far ahead now. It's just like I felt like I had to pay attention to what they were doing because they're the ones that everybody's chasing. But it feels like they're like 500 yards ahead of them, and it's just like I don't really care as much about what they're doing right now because it's all about just like Steve and Bucky and now Zemo or Battlestar and Walker catching them. It's the race to find these people, and it just seemed like they're so far away. It's like, all right, well, if you're not going to do anything compelling with these characters, then why do I care about them? I think that's somewhat of an issue I have so far. I don't know how you guys feel.
I mean, I agree with that. I think they, especially in this episode, they didn't do much. There wasn't much confrontation. They had a big fight in the last episode, which I thought was really good. But in this episode, they didn't do much. So hopefully Sam and Bucky and the crew catch up to them, or even if Walker catches up to them, right? Because I'm sure he'd get his butt kicked again. So yeah, hopefully they do catch up to them again soon. I think we're gonna get some kind of confrontation with them. If not in the next episode, then in the episode after that, probably involving Zemo and probably more people as well. I think this is all going to come to a head at some point. But I agree, it's definitely taken a while, and they're not really explaining the motivations with Carly very much so far. So I think they're trying to build to it, but it's very slow.
Yeah, I think there's more exposition to be had on that front in terms of explaining whether or not that is good. That's up for interpretation. Right. Maybe we should have learned all that by now, but I think we still have time. I'm trying to figure out who do we think is going to be the third act villain at this stage. We're halfway in, and we know Walker, and U.S. agent, is going to be an adversary probably. We know that, the power broker is out there. We don't even know who that is, and then we know that Carly Morgenthau is out there, and the Flag Smashers. They feel like a little bit of a red herring, like. I don't know if they're going to be the final boss per se.
Mm-hmm.
I think it may be the power broker.
Yeah.
I feel like Zemo will emerge from the show.
And we also have Zemo. I just didn't even mention it.
Yeah, I feel like Zemo will. I feel like Zemo will emerge from the show as a villain, similar to I guess White Vision maybe. Like he'll leave the show as a villain, as someone that's in the world that we know is villain.
Yeah, I almost thought about like Zemo's role in this being kind of akin to Fisk in season 2 of Daredevil, where where they leave him, we'll be seeing him around, but like like the fight isn't with him immediately for this episode or this season, and this is a show that they haven't necessarily said this is only a one and done. There's a chance that there are multiple seasons for this, or there's a chance that Zemo maybe somehow is tied into a movie in the future.
Yeah, or a Thunderbolt.
Or that too.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big question. Obviously, that scene at the end is a pretty big deal. What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, so you got Bucky kind of picks up on these trackers that are being placed all over the streets of Latvia where they land as they try to get closer and closer to tracking down the Flag Smashers, and he realizes that they're being tracked, so he starts looking, or at least someone's tracking them. So he looks up, he starts following the trails, and it eventually leads him to an alley where he realized that he was waiting he was waiting to see this confrontation, and then camera pans, and it's Io from the Dora Milaje, of course the representatives of Wakanda, who want smoke with Baron Zemo. Zemo killed T'Chaka. T'Challa was willing to let him sit in a jail cell and did not take his life when, Ned didn't even allow Zemo to take his own life, because that was his original plan. Now that he's out and they got wind of it, they probably now want to exact their own justice. Kendall, how do you anticipate this showdown going?
Yeah, this is interesting. I've mentioned Nate Moore, from Black Panther, is part of this show's crew. And his inclusion surprised me when I saw the initial first credits of the show. I didn't realize he was a part of it. And now I think I know why they decided to bring him on, if they're going to so heavily feature, a Wakandan storyline into this show. I mean, I didn't think they were doing it, because, he was the gatekeeper to Bucky's character after he spent his time as the White Wolf. So it makes sense now why he's involved in this show. But yeah, no, that was a scene that certainly took me by surprise. I didn't know what Bucky was up to. I was wondering, are we gonna get a turn here? Like, what's going on? Like, is he still in Winter Soldier mode or something? But that was not what I expected. And look, I mean, to me, it's going to be a very interesting confrontation. It's funny that you mentioned, or it's interesting that you mentioned how T'Challa, let Zemo live. So, is the goal revenge, or is the goal, look, now that he's out, like, he's a danger. We gotta neutralize him. Is it, this is a situation where the Dora Milaje are kind of like, T'Challa had one thing, but we have a different mindset when it comes to this guy. That's something that I think we'll learn in the next episode. But that's something I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah, this is a very interesting situation. I think it's going to end up being more Easter eggy. So I feel like we may get drips and drops of what the issue is going to be with Black Panther 2, potentially. Through this, I don't think they're going to fight Zemo. I think Sam is going to talk them off the ledge. He's going to say, "Look, we need him right now," And I mean, he spent a decent amount of time there, so I mean, I think he'll be successful in talking them out of it. Though next week we'll find out. I'll probably be very wrong.
Shamari's been beaten and battered by WandaVision. He's like, just don't look forward to anything, or everything's gonna let you down.
It is what it is, man. I mean, am I wrong? Didn't the showrunner say, "Listen, don't expect any kind of Reed Richards or anything like that"? I feel like he said something like that.
I don't know. I thought he said the opposite.
Really?
Well, I mean, he said that we're gonna get an episode 5.
Well, yeah,
we
I
talked
remember that. I feel like he said
on
something
our
before.
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he said something before about, like, we're not gonna.
Yeah, I feel like he said, like, we're not WandaVision. This isn't WandaVision.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
So yeah, I don't expect them to fight Zemo. That would be an interesting surprise, but yeah, I'm expecting them to turn out to be talked out of that confrontation. But I do think we're gonna get, even if they do fight him, I think we're gonna get something that will lead us to start being like, ooh, for something for Black Panther 2. That's what I'm expecting.
And it's funny, to me, I think that what this will set up probably is Zemo playing a role in Black Panther 2 somehow. Perhaps him being in the wind, like how, like, similar to how we had Claw in the first Black Panther, or in Age of Ultron. And that's probably more of a better comparison. I wonder if he plays kind of a Claw role in a Black Panther 2, where you saw him go into the wind in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and now it becomes, okay, we told y'all to keep him on the locks and that we wanted him locked up as soon as y'all were done. Y'all didn't handle it, so now we're going to handle it. So I wonder if that scene maybe plays out in Black Panther 2. Obviously, things have changed a lot, of course, since the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, so I don't know if you have time to be having random missions against Zemo, but I feel like maybe that was the original plan for why he did this.
My my guess is that this is more about, and look, we just mentioned what Malcolm Spellman, the showrunner, said about what we're going to get in episode 5, how it's going to be a major surprise character, and get the box of tissues ready. It's going to be a sad episode. I think we're going to see Chadwick Boseman, or at least see the Black Panther.
It's funny. I was thinking that as well.
Voice.
I was kind of vaguely thinking that. I think when we were doing our last show or one of our shows, I was like, what if it's like Chadwick Boseman?
Yeah.
Maybe what if that's like why he said people are gonna be like sad when they see the episode? Because what if he's like in? I don't know. Because the thing was, but then I was trying to do the timeline of when were they filming.
That's part of it.
Because I thought they started filming after. I mean, I could be wrong. And even when they were filming.
Like he was still alive, but I
feel like he wasn't in the physical shape to be Black Panther at that time. I don't know for sure.
Again, is he not in the suit? Is it a voiceover? He could have done a voiceover.
Right, yeah.
Certainly, at some time late 2019, early 2020. So that's a possibility.
Yeah.
It's certainly would be a sad type of scene, but that it fits what Spellman was talking about in terms of a character that hasn't technically interacted with Thor. He said it was supposed to be a character he wants to see interact with Thor, and would be a sad, would be a sad but surprising type of character.
I would agree with that. But I think we're at the point now where we can do scores for this episode. So I'll let Kendall go first on this one. What are you gonna give episode 3 of Falcon and Winter Soldier: Power Broker?
I'll give this episode a 7. I think not a bad episode, but I think certainly some of the Anthony Mackie's humor continues to shine in this role. But the episode was a little bit faster paced, but I kind of wish we moved along a little bit. I kind of feel like we didn't get as much from point A to point B in this episode as we did. A lot was happening, but we didn't get to point B as much in this episode. But
it's like even though a lot was happening, it's like we had to learn a lot of information, so they didn't go anywhere. So a lot of it was like, this is why there was a super soldier serum. This is why they have it. This is why there's only this amount left.
Yeah. The only thing really accomplished was getting Zemo. And finding Sharon Carter, running Sharon Carter on Madripoor. But still excited. Someone said we've seen 95% of the trailer footage, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, I will give this episode a 7.5. I thought it was a solid episode. Definitely not a fantastic episode. Less action in this episode, and I love action, so.
You thought there was less action in this episode?
Huh?
You thought there was less action in this episode? I thought the scene on the
less
boat was
superhero-y.
Yeah, less superhero and less like.
I would agree with that. It's more just hand-to-hand combat. So I mean Bucky, took out like 10. He took out 10 guys alone in the bar. So there was action. I think it just maybe wasn't again Falcon flying around or anything like that.
True. So yeah, I probably wasn't the biggest fan of this episode. I mean, it was good, but it seemed like a setup episode to me.
Yeah.
Like
a bridge.
Yeah, it seemed like a bridge episode. For me, the standouts were Zemo. I actually liked Zemo a lot in this show.
Yeah.
This is probably my favorite version of Zemo that we've seen. So Zemo, Sharon Carter was great, and Sam was also great, as Kendall mentioned. But a lot of character stuff. I'm trying to get to more of the meat and potatoes of the show, so to speak. And I think we have yet to see that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point in terms of still kind of going through a lot of character stuff. I wonder in kind of establishing the world that these characters are in now that we're very many years removed from when we last saw them. I feel like with this episode, it's weird because I think that, I agree that we need to move beyond that in the next episode, but I still feel like there's a lot missing with Carly. So it's like maybe that's the only character that maybe still needs a lot of character work. to kind of tie everything together in what they're doing. I think I like this episode a little bit more than you guys. I'll say it was an 8. I think that to me, like, you gotta give them points for just how beautiful things were shot in Madripoor. I think how those action scenes played out were great. I even thought the 10 scenes of like them at the bar, and them, talking to Selby, like those are all really tense and well done scenes. They had some nice funny moments, with Sam. I thought even the open with Sam Bucky explaining to Sam a hypothetical that was actually what happened in terms of how they broke out Zemo. And it's just, I love how, like, even though Bucky is like not the Winter Soldier, like, he has all the Winter Soldier's like skills. So his ability to be like, I'm gonna go into prison and get this guy out easily, and I'll just tell him to do X, Y, and Z. And of course, Zemo being who he is, like, it was very easy. It should be very easy for something like that. But it's like, because he's so, like, again, normal, like, sometimes you kind of forget that, like, he has these abilities where he can easily be like, all right, I'll come in here for 2 minutes, talk to him for a bit. All right, I know how to get him out. He's out. Yeah, there he is. Let's go. like I kind of like that about him. I think that we learn these little things about Sam and Bucky throughout this, and I thought that that was a good way to kind of show, hey, maybe he's not, maybe he doesn't have the metal arm with the red star, but in some ways he is still the Winter Soldier. And shout out to Sharon Carter. I mean, she's had this just right so far, maybe the most kick-ass, action sequence of her just wrecking those dudes at the on that port or on that boat. That was some killer stuff. So I enjoyed this episode. I think an 8 is fair. Definitely, again, the flash match stuff to me really the only thing that was slow.
I was just gonna say I didn't get the scene where Falcon was on speaker with his sister, and like I don't know why he let that drag on as long as he did. That's right. He just like, all right, bye.
I think he just had to play it as cool as possible. So I think that it was going pretty well for the most part. I think he was willing to just let it ride, and then at the very end it fell off the rails.
Yeah, I feel that. Yep.
Yeah, I mean he's not like a spy, so he also wasn't like not trained to handle
he's not
that
exactly
situation.
trained to be in those kind of situations. Yeah.
One other surprise I had in this episode was I really thought that we were gonna see Walker like lose it when that guy spit in his face.
I think we will still see him lose it. I think he's slowly losing his grip.
Yeah, something's off with him. Like even Lamar is clearly not on his level.
No, Lamar has he has a fairly decent head on his shoulders. It feels like, but it seems like in many ways he's almost like Walker's babysitter. It's kind of weird.
He's trying to control him.
Pretty much.
Yeah, he's like, hey man, like you gotta chill. Like this is what it's gonna be. Like it's like he's coaching him through some of this stuff.
He's like the agent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of expected that he would maybe lose it more. He did it in that scene. But I mean, we do see, this is a Captain America that was, I mean, those guys were, harboring fugitives, but I don't think if Steve was in that situation, he comes in and just like starts, grabbing guys by the neck and pushing them against walls. Like that's not how Steve does Captain America. So I think that was a little taste of like how this Captain America gets down when it comes to like dealing with like civilians, and you see that he's not Steve Rogers. So it was a good scene, and it was a needed scene, but I almost was waiting for that like bigger explosion, especially when he got spit in his face. But I think I agree that moment is coming. What do you guys think of episode 3 of Falcon and Winter Soldier Power Broker? Make sure you guys leave a comment in the comment section with any theories or ideas you see from this episode that you think will carry into episode 4 or throughout the rest of the season. Of course, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you give us a like and subscribe to the channel, Generation Media. We're doing these episode recaps every week. We got 3 more episodes left, and we're excited to continue this journey. So thank you guys for checking us out. For Shamari, for Kendall, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.